Hey everybody! Philip Weir here from Las Vegas. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of time here before people start logging on. I get my usual spot out here on the patio and see what you guys think about prescription meds, whether they're good or bad. Some of the stuff that I found through research and documentaries and stuff like that was pretty interesting. I got some interesting photos. I still haven't learned how to share my photos on the screen as I do it, so I'm just going to show them through my phone with you guys at this time. But other than that, how's everybody doing? Hello. Give it a few, give it like another minute so more people can log on before I get started. Actually, I don't even know where to start at. Actually, I got to go get my, I took a lot of notes. I watched this documentary on, and it was pretty awesome. It was called Statin, and the documentary was about statin drugs, whether they're good or bad. It wasn't about one or the other. It was kind of like just going through the effects and how they may skew the studies a little bit in their favors. Like anybody, when we like something, we want people to only see the good of it, not the side effects and stuff like that. So I had to jot some notes down for this one. It was a lot of notes, actually. It was 1, 2, 3, just 4 pages of notes. Not much. So yeah, I'll give it like another minute, and then I will get started. So what's going on out there? Let's see who we have on live right now. Johnny, David, Keith, Dusty. What's up, Nigel? Dominic, Christina. Hello, all of you guys. So yeah, this should be an interesting topic, to say the least. So if you guys have a specific topic that you're interested in as far as health goes, let me know. I'll see if I can do research and find stuff out about it and do that as well. This is a passion of mine. It started with my family. I lost all my grandparents before the age of 15 due to autoimmune diseases, and I kind of never really wanted to do that, because now that I'm thinking about it, I think my oldest living grandparent was 56 when they passed away. So that means my dad was probably in his early 30s when he lost both of his parents. Yeah, he was in his early 30s, 34, when the last parent was gone, which stinks. And a lot of them are on some of these medications that we're about to talk about, which is crazy because you always want to trust what they put on TV, because you see doctors in white coats and celebrities and movie stars endorsing these things, but we don't know that most of them don't even take it. They just do it because they get money for it. So, oh well, I'll give it like another 30 seconds and then I'll get into it. I would imagine everybody who's on here right now, or everybody who's going to watch this while it's going on or in the near future, all know at least one person who's on a prescription medication. So, and some of them might be you, some may not be. So, I mean, it's crazy the stuff they do to qualify you to be on a medication. The one that they had the most information on was statin drugs, which is to help people lower their cholesterol so they don't have a heart attack. Get off of here. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I think I lost you guys for a second. Yeah, market's like, wow. So, what's up, Uriel? What's up, Mr. Rivera? I'm just trying to get a few things situated before I start. But, yeah, I mean, you guys chime in anytime you want. Ask questions or whatever, but I am going to start now. It's been almost 5 minutes since I went on, and who's on's on and who's not, they can watch it later. But yeah, first and foremost, I'm Philip Weir, coming to you from sunny warm but dry heat Las Vegas. I want to give a huge shout out to friends of ours who are actually from New Orleans as well. They live like 3 or 4 houses around the block from us. They just had a beautiful baby boy last night. That was the Parkers, Mr. Curtis and Lauren Parker. They have Curtis Anthony Parker III now. So welcome him into this beautiful world we live in. And yeah, and I just wanted to start off with that to give him a huge shout out. He's got a boy. He's got 2 older girls, so I'm sure he's pretty excited to have a little guy running around with him. I know I do. But yeah, so let's get started on this topic of prescription meds, good or bad for you. So through the research that I was doing through some of these studies and stuff like that, the U.S. makes up only 5% of the world's population, yet we consume more than 50% of the world's pharmaceuticals and 80% of prescription medications in the entire world. So 5% of our population is consuming over 80% of the entire world's population of prescription meds. And there's a little bit of story on why that is and stuff like that. They went into it like after 9/11, the war on terror, how they started getting more secure at the borders and stuff like that. So the cocaine and all the other drugs couldn't get in. So even though we cut off the supply for drugs, recreational drugs, to get into the country, we didn't help the people who was in the need of the drug. And so those people who could no longer get their hands on recreational drugs were turning to prescription meds, painkillers and stuff like that, like Oxy, Prozac, Dilaudid, Norco, opiates, benzos, and stuff like that. So we did get rid of some of the problem with the drugs coming in, but we didn't solve the solution for the people who still had the need or the addiction to those drugs, which was pretty interesting. So, with that said, now this was crazy too. 80,000 people a year die. 80,000 people die a year from taking their medications that are prescribed to them correctly from that medication. That's 80,000 people a year pass away who has been in a physician's care or in the hospital, die a year from taking their prescriptions correctly. Of that, over 8,000 alone was aspirin, which was not part of this, but that's just something they tell you, oh, you should take an aspirin a day and stuff like that when you get a certain age and all that. So over 8,000 people a year died just from taking aspirin as directed. So it's crazy. So what do we turn to? So the one drug that they really hit on was statin drugs. And in the U.S. alone, we're spending over $300 billion a year on medications. And the Mayo Clinic says 7 out of 10 people who live in the United States are on some kind of prescribed drug. So, which is confusing because when you're watching the news or you're reading medical journals, you're hearing about all these great advancements that are happening in our society, in our world, that's going on, all the breakthroughs, but yet we're sicker than we've ever been. The United States is, from the hundreds of countries we have around the world, we rank 37th in health. We're the 37th healthiest country in the world. Yet we have all these great institutions here in the United States, and we're subpar with that. So the thing is that we go to the doctor, we listen to him because he has medical training, but most of these medical schools nowadays are funded and getting huge donations from big pharmaceutical companies. So they are encouraged to encourage you to take the prescribed medication. And one crazy study through this documentary, all the information I'm giving you is from either research on the web or through a documentary that was called Statin, and there's one called Statin 2. And so cholesterol is the big deal with statin drugs. people with high cholesterol, they want to lower your stuff so that way you decrease your risk of a heart attack. So through this study, I think it was 15 years ago, normal cholesterol rate was, the number was 250. So if your cholesterol wasn't over 250, you were considered fine. And about 10 years ago, in order for them to make more money with drugs like Lipitor, Crestor, and all statin drugs, they lowered that number through lobbyists in Washington, D.C., not through any medical findings, through lobbyists, to lower that number from 250 to 200. So there was no medical evidence, no scientific proof that showed that need to drop that number. But what it did was it increased the output of statin drugs by 40%, which put more money into their pockets. So the normal cholesterol was 250. Now they say it's 200. And now they're trying to get it lowered to that. They're trying to get it somewhere between 160 and 180. So that means, according to that, over 60% of the population would need to be on a statin drug to do that. Now, the main reason for them to want to put people on a statin drug is to decrease heart attacks. But when your body's producing cholesterol at a certain level, it's because your body needs that cholesterol in it. And what they found was, through medical science and stuff like that, like I said, a documentary called Statin, was that when you lower someone's cholesterol from what they normally should be functioning at, you increase their risk of having a heart attack. So you're like, well, what do you do? And the side effects for statin drugs is you have severe memory loss, you dehydrate your thyroid really bad, you stop the production of CoQ10. So if you know people who are on any of those statin drugs and stuff like that, they may always be tired, feel fatigued. That's because as much as you lower the cholesterol, let's say you lower your cholesterol by 10%, that means you lowered your CoQ enzyme by 10% as well. So your body won't produce it. And if you are male, and as you get older, you start decreasing production of that already anyway. So it's kind of crazy. So now you're even enhancing that the decreasing of the CoQ in your body, which is insane. So it's crazy that they can lower it like that, and then you can still do it. So then people are like, well, what's the alternative? My doctor says I need to be on this drug so I can lower my cholesterol, which there is not one shred of medical evidence that shows lowering your cholesterol reduces your risk of heart attack. Now what they try to do is they try to frame it as a saturated fat problem. And so they started doing all these studies on these countries that are eating high amounts of saturated fat. And the ironic thing about that was, in places where they consume the most saturated fat in the world is where they have the least amount of heart issues. So that was kind of interesting too with the statin drugs and that the saturated fats and stuff like that. So what most people try to do is you want to eat healthy. We talked last week about the chemicals and how to read the labels on fruits and vegetables to know whether they GMO, chemicals, pesticides, what can you do? The week before that was What the Health, which really inspired me to continue doing this, about the meats and the antibiotics and the chemicals and stuff like that that you're eating when you're doing that. So it's almost kind of like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I mean, you need to eat to live, right? What else you gonna do? You need to eat to live. There's no other way around it. So what the people, now this is for the people who are on drugs. If you watch the documentary, you can see how people through a clean, organic, mostly organic, I don't think anything's 100% organic. If you was going to eat throughout the day, it's kind of hard to do that nowadays unless you're living in one of those countries. But people can reverse the effects and get off of medications. Some people through it can do it in 2 weeks. Some people it may take 6 months to a year or even longer. But would it be worth it to you to do that if you was able to get off of medications? And some of these drugs are ridiculous, like hundreds of dollars a month. And I know people complain about organic food being so expensive. But in another year or two, when they lower the levels of what's high cholesterol again, you're going to be paying hundreds of dollars a month just to pay for that. Wouldn't you rather just pay an extra 30, 40 bucks at the grocery store now instead of needing to buy all these medications later? So in modern science, with the technologies and stuff we have, you would think that we would be getting healthier, but we're actually getting more sick as a country, which is pretty crazy. So I just want to, I still, like I said, I haven't learned how to share my screen. I'm trying to get this to turn sideways. But what happens is a lot of doctors, I'm going to post this on a page after, they're treating the symptom of the disease and not the underlying problem. So high blood pressure is not a disease. There's something that causes high blood pressure, but we never find out what that is. So if you look at this iceberg here, the high blood pressure or cholesterol issue would be the tip of it. The underlying causes, usually, which is something to do with inflammation within the body, is 90% of the iceberg, which is underneath it. But they never treat that problem. They just want to put you on the medication. Not all doctors are like this. Some do holistic care. I'm just saying, but this is what's taught. So, or you can look at it this way through an example of a tree. So if you had a tree, the top of it could look nice and healthy, but if the soil and the roots are dying, then what good is the tree a year from now or 2 years from now? It may last and look good for a few years, but look at that, you know? It's crazy on what you can do. You know, there's a reason why we have plants, fruits, and vegetables on this planet. Like, I'm a faithful person. I go to church every weekend with my family. I believe God put everything here for us to use. Yes, medicine is needed and is welcomed and should be, but some of it may not be so good. So the problem is even if you are trying to eat organic, the soil nowadays is depleted of almost 40 key nutrients and minerals. So even if you are eating organic, your soil may not have all the nutrition that it had. So for example, if you was to eat an orange, you'd have to eat over 12 oranges today to get the same amount of vitamin C from one orange in 1980. That's how depleted the fruits and vegetables are if you're not getting them 100% organic. So over 12 oranges today would have to make up the vitamin C levels of one orange in 1980. So as you can see, as the soil's nutrients deplete and we don't have it, autoimmune diseases go up and problems and issues. Now, an interesting thing is that in other countries like Europe, even Mexico, they're doing these studies with high doses of vitamin C, IV therapy, which is helping with cancer, high blood pressure issues, and all that. It's getting rid of the inflammation within the body. So it's kind of hard. So how do you get high doses of vitamin C that are healthy, you know? So we look at the RDA, you know, the daily allowance that they say we should have, which was set back in the 1940s during World War II to get rid of like scurvy and rickets for soldiers, and that has never been changed. So if you look at the RDA, I'm going to post all these pictures later. So the RDA, you can't see that. I'll post a picture anyway. Here, I'll read it off to you. So the RDA, for example, says that 59 milligrams of vitamin C is the RDA recommended level. But science shows that you need over 1,300 for optimal levels of performance and inflammation. So it's like, what do you do? Who do you believe? Who do you trust? Hey, babe. My wife's walking up right now. But it's like, yeah, so what do you do? Who do you trust? And all this other stuff. So I'll post all these pictures later. So it's like, the RDA isn't what it used to be. And then it's like, where do you go to get your how you bridge the gap between the nutrition you're not getting through your fruits and vegetables that you want to get and making your body healthy, you know? It's kind of hard. So a lot of people, they choose supplementation, for example. So just be sure that your supplementation is on par of what you're trying to take and your body is actually using it. I can do a whole other presentation on that another time. But yeah, so it's just like that. There's lots of information on that. But yeah, the statin drugs, just be careful with that. If you know people on that and all that other stuff, just have it checked out and try to reverse it through diet if you can. Don't get off your medications by any means. But as you change your diet, improve it, and move through other things, you maybe need it less, and then eventually wean off of it through a good plant-based organic diet. So yeah, so if you guys have anything specific you want information on, you can person will message me, or if you haven't, I'm gonna post these pictures later. But other than that, that's it. Yeah. So once again, let's recap. The U.S. makes up 5% of the world's population, but we consume 80% of the world's prescription drugs or meds. You can call them what you want, which is crazy. Statin drugs is one of the biggest ones, most common people on. Cholesterol drugs, blood pressure drugs, diabetes drugs. Take your diabetes drugs. And more than 80,000 people a year die from taking their prescription medication as directed and correctly. So yeah, and what else? And I think that's about covers it. So if you guys have any dialogue or any other information or any questions, please feel free. I appreciate everybody who joined. And yeah, maybe next week we'll talk children's nutrition. I was looking at that, and the average kid through a basic healthy diet consumes over 130 chemicals on a daily basis, which is crazy, which leads to a lot of causes and a lot of illnesses. Youngins, you see like 4 or 5-year-old kids with cancer and stuff like that today. It's heartbreaking to see that. But yeah, guys, so yeah, just thanks for joining. I'm sure every one of us knows one person that takes a type of medication. And if not, feel free to send me a message. And yeah, I just keep doing this every Wednesday, usually at 2:45. I try to get on and do something. So yeah, I'm thinking about kids' nutrition next week and how they consume at least 130 chemicals on a daily basis, even though you're trying to feed them the right way. So you guys have a great day. Enjoy the weather no matter where you're at. And peace out. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.